Hey there! Before we dive into today's story, remember to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you want to join me on this amazing language learning journey. Click the notification bell too, so you won't miss any of our future lessons and stories. Also, I'd love to hear about your own English learning experiences in the comments below. Now, let me share with you a story that changed my life forever. Hi, I'm Jennifer Walker, and I want to share a story that changed not only my life, but the lives of countless students I've had the privilege to teach. Before I tell you about my journey as an English teacher in New York City, let me take you back to where it all began, a crisp September morning that would reshape my entire approach to teaching. As I hurried through Manhattan's bustling streets that morning, clutching my teaching materials close to my chest, I couldn't help but feel both terrified and excited. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the towering skyline, and my heart raced with anticipation. It was my first day as an English teacher at one of New York's most prestigious language schools, and I was determined to make a difference. Like many new teachers, I started my career believing I had all the answers. Fresh out of college with a teaching degree and a head full of traditional methodologies, I was convinced that my carefully prepared lesson plans and textbook approaches would be the key to helping my students master English. Oh, how wrong I was. As I stepped into the modern glass building housing our language school, I mentally rehearsed the conventional teaching techniques I'd learned: grammar drills, vocabulary lists, and structured dialogues. The elevator ride to the 15th floor gave me a breathtaking view of Central Park, but my mind was focused on the thick teaching manual in my hands, my supposed guide to proper English instruction. The classroom waited, pristine and professional, with its whiteboard, perfectly arranged chairs, and wall charts displaying verb conjugations and phonetic symbols. Everything was in its place, just as I'd been taught it should be. But as I began arranging my materials on the desk, a nagging doubt crept in. Would these traditional methods really help my students achieve their dreams of English fluency? I glanced at my class roster. 15 students from various corners of the world, each with their own reasons for learning English, their own struggles, and their own stories. The diversity was both exciting and daunting. The clock struck 9, and footsteps approached the classroom. In those final moments, I couldn't shake the feeling that despite all my preparation, something was missing from my approach. I just didn't know what it was. Yet, that first morning in my Manhattan classroom, I met the 3 students who would change my entire perspective on teaching English. They walked in one by one, each bringing their own unique energy to the room, and little did I know they would become the catalysts for a teaching revolution. Maria arrived first, a Brazilian chef in her 30s with a warm smile that could light up any room. She carried a small container that filled our classroom with the irresistible aroma of freshly baked pão de queijo. "Good morning. I'm so happy to be here," she said, her accent thick, but her enthusiasm genuine. "I always bring something from my kitchen on first days, for good luck." I watched as her eyes sparkled talking about cooking, even while struggling with English words. Next came Takashi, a Japanese businessman whose every movement spoke of precision and dedication. His suit was crisp, his leather briefcase organized to perfection. He bowed slightly, greeting me with carefully pronounced words. "Thank you for having us in your class." Later, he confided that his briefcase contained business reports he needed to present in English, a prospect that filled him with dread despite his years of business experience. Elena, our third arrival, was a Spanish artist who practically danced into the room, her fingers stained with paint and her spirit radiating creative energy. "Hello, I can't wait to learn how to talk about my art in English," she exclaimed, her hands moving expressively to fill in the gaps where words failed her. During our first icebreaker activity, I noticed how differently they each approached the challenge of communication. Maria used animated gestures and warm smiles to bridge the language gap. Takashi meticulously wrote down every new English word he heard, and Elena sketched in her notebook while listening to conversations around her. What struck me most were their unique motivations for learning English. While most students gave standard responses about work or travel, these three revealed deeper aspirations. Maria dreamed of teaching cooking classes in English, sharing her culinary heritage with a global audience. Takashi wanted to negotiate international deals without relying on a translator, believing direct communication built stronger business relationships. Elena hoped to connect with the vibrant New York art scene, expressing her artistic vision in a language that matched her creative spirit. As I watched them struggle with the traditional introduction exercises I'd planned, something didn't feel right. These weren't just students looking to learn a language. They were passionate individuals seeking to share their gifts with the world. There had to be a better way to help them achieve their dreams than the conventional methods I'd prepared. 2 weeks into our classes, I was growing increasingly frustrated with my traditional teaching methods. Despite following every rule in the textbook, my students seemed trapped in a cycle of memorization without real understanding. Then came the morning that changed everything. I had just finished another grammar drill when Maria raised her hand, her face showing a mix of embarrassment and determination. "Miss Jennifer," she started, "I try very hard, but these grammar rules, they don't stick in my head." But yesterday, something amazing happened in my kitchen. The entire class perked up, including me. Maria's eyes lit up as she continued. "I was watching cooking show in English, and I understood everything. The chef said, whisk, fold, simmer, all words we learned last week. But in kitchen context, they make sense. I even wrote down new recipe in English." That was my light bulb moment. While Maria spoke about her experience, I noticed Takashi nodding along, his usual reserved demeanor giving way to recognition. Elena, too, was suddenly animated, sketching something in her notebook with renewed energy. "Maria," I asked, breaking from my lesson plan entirely, "would you be comfortable showing us how to make something simple? In English?" The smile that spread across her face told me everything. The next day, our classroom transformed into an impromptu kitchen. Maria brought in simple ingredients for Brazilian brigadeiros. As she demonstrated each step, something magical happened. Students who had struggled with basic vocabulary were now eagerly asking questions. "How long do we stir? What temperature? Can you explain that technique again?" Even more remarkable was how naturally the grammar we'd been struggling with emerged in context. Present continuous, I'm stirring the chocolate. Imperatives, add the butter slowly. Conditionals, if you stir too fast, it will burn. Takashi, usually quiet, surprised everyone by sharing how certain cooking terms reminded him of business expressions. "To fold in new ideas," he said thoughtfully, "to let projects simmer, to whisk away problems." The whole class laughed, but I saw the connections forming in their minds. Elena, inspired by the activity, began sketching the process, creating a visual recipe that combined art and instructions. "This is how I learn best," she explained, adding English labels to her drawings. "When I can see it, feel it, do it, then I remember." Watching my students engage so naturally with English, I realized I had stumbled upon something profound. Language wasn't just a set of rules to be memorized. It was a living tool that came alive when connected to real passions and experiences. That evening, as I cleaned chocolate off my teaching manual, something I never thought would happen, I began reimagining my entire approach to teaching English. What if Takashi could practice through mock business meetings? What if Elena could guide art tours in English? What if every student could learn through their personal interests? The possibilities seemed endless, and for the first time since I started teaching, I felt truly excited about the path ahead. My students weren't just learning English anymore, they were living it. And this was just the beginning. The success of Maria's cooking lessons sparked a complete transformation in my teaching approach. I spent the next few weeks redesigning our entire curriculum, turning our classroom into what I called a living English laboratory, a space where language came alive through real-world experiences. First, I mapped out each student's passions and professional needs. This wasn't just about making lessons fun. It was about creating meaningful connections with the language. I developed 3 core principles that would guide my new teaching methodology. Learn through living became our first principle. Instead of traditional vocabulary lists, we created immersive experiences. Our classroom transformed daily. One day, a business conference room for Takashi's group. The next, an art gallery for Elena's presentations. Then a test kitchen for Maria's cooking demonstrations. The second principle I called personal language maps. Each student maintained a journal documenting their English journey through their unique interests. Takashi tracked business idioms he encountered in real meetings, Elena collected art-related vocabulary from gallery visits, and Maria built a culinary English dictionary through her experiments with American recipes. Community learning circles emerged as our third principle. I organized small groups based on complementary interests and skills. An architect in our class found common ground with Elena through discussions of design, while a food blogger connected naturally with Maria's culinary adventures. Even Takashi discovered that his business presentation skills could help others explain their passions professionally. The results were remarkable. Students began bringing their lives into the classroom. One brought in blueprints from his construction job, teaching others terms for tools and techniques. Another shared her grandmother's recipes, leading to a fascinating discussion about cooking measurements in different cultures. Most importantly, I noticed a shift in confidence. Students stopped apologizing for their accents or grammatical mistakes. Instead, they focused on communicating their ideas effectively. Grammar and vocabulary weren't separate subjects anymore. They were tools for sharing knowledge and passion. The traditional teaching manual gathered dust on my shelf as we created our own learning materials based on real-life situations. Every lesson became an opportunity for authentic communication, whether through role-playing business negotiations, conducting art critiques, or exchanging family recipes. Looking at my students' growing confidence and enthusiasm, I knew we had discovered something special. This wasn't just a teaching method. It was a way of making English an integral part of their lives. As our new teaching approach took root, I watched in amazement as my students blossomed, each in their own unique way. Their transformations weren't just about improving their English. They were about finding their voice and confidence in a new language. Maria's journey was perhaps the most visible. 6 months into our program, she launched her YouTube cooking channel, Flavors of Brazil in English. I'll never forget her first video, where she confidently explained the art of making feijoada to an international audience. "The comments section is amazing," she told me, beaming. "People from all over the world are asking questions about Brazilian cuisine, and I can answer them in English." Her channel grew rapidly, and soon she was collaborating with other food creators, seamlessly switching between Portuguese and English while sharing her culinary heritage. Takashi's transformation was more subtle, but equally profound. During one of our business simulation sessions, he led a mock negotiation that caught everyone's attention. Gone was the hesitant businessman who doubted every word. In his place stood a confident professional who skillfully navigated complex business terms and cultural nuances. "Last week," he shared proudly, "I closed my first international deal without a translator. The client said my English made them feel more connected to our company." His success inspired him to mentor other Japanese professionals struggling with business English. Elena's story took an unexpected turn that perfectly embodied our learning philosophy. She combined her artistic talent with her growing English skills to create an innovative art education program. Art Speaks English became her signature workshop series at a local community center, where she taught art techniques while naturally incorporating English instruction. "When I'm talking about art, the English just flows," she explained during one of her sessions. I don't think about grammar rules anymore. I think about colors, textures, and emotions. The ripple effects of their success spread throughout our classroom. Other students began setting ambitious goals they never thought possible. A shy Korean student started a podcast about K-pop culture in English. A Venezuelan architect began offering virtual tours of famous buildings, explaining architectural terms to English-speaking audiences. What touched me most were the connections that formed between students. Maria collaborated with Takashi to cater business events, while Elena designed the artwork for Maria's cooking channel. They created a mini ecosystem of English learning and cultural exchange that exceeded anything I could have planned. Their achievements went far beyond language proficiency scores or grammar tests. They had discovered that English wasn't just a subject to study. It was a bridge to sharing their passions with the world. Watching them support and inspire each other, I realized that we had created something more than a language class. We had built a community of confident, creative English speakers who were ready to make their mark on the world. While our new approach was transforming lives, it wasn't without its challenges. As rewarding as our journey was, we faced several obstacles that tested our commitment to this innovative teaching method. The biggest hurdle was what I called the perfection paralysis. Many students, particularly Takashi, initially struggled with the idea of speaking without perfect grammar. During one business presentation, he froze mid-sentence, overwhelmed by the fear of making mistakes. That's when Maria stepped in with wisdom from her cooking experience. In cooking, we say, perfect is the enemy of good. Sometimes the most delicious meals come from improvising. This simple analogy helped shift our entire class's mindset about language learning. Time management presented another significant challenge. Most of our students were working professionals or had family responsibilities. Elena often arrived exhausted from long hours at her art studio, while Maria juggled restaurant shifts with her English studies. We adapted by creating what we called life-integrated learning, finding ways to incorporate English practice into their daily routines. Students began recording voice notes during their commutes, practicing English while cooking dinner, or listening to industry-specific podcasts while exercising. Takashi started holding his morning team meetings in English, effectively turning his workplace into a language learning environment. Cultural barriers also needed careful navigation. Some students came from educational backgrounds, where teacher-led, textbook-based learning was the only acceptable method. I remember one student's concern. In my country, this is not how we learn. We must follow the book. We addressed this by gradually introducing our interactive methods while respecting their traditional learning styles. Perhaps the most unexpected challenge was helping students maintain their motivation once they achieved their initial goals. Elena faced this after her first successful art exhibition. She wondered, what next? We solved this by continuously setting new, increasingly ambitious objectives. Her next project became teaching art history in English to international students. Through addressing these challenges, we discovered that obstacles often led to our most innovative solutions. Each problem we solved added another layer of effectiveness to our teaching methodology, making it more robust and adaptable to different learning styles and needs. Word of our unconventional English learning approach spread quickly through Manhattan's international community. What started in our classroom soon rippled outward, creating waves of change in unexpected ways. Other teachers at our language school began asking about our methods. I remember one colleague, Sarah, peeking into our classroom during Maria's cooking demonstration, fascinated by how naturally students were using complex vocabulary. Your students aren't just learning English, she observed. They're living it. Soon she started incorporating passion-based learning into her own classes, having students teach skateboarding tricks or share traditional dance moves, all in English. The impact extended beyond our school walls. Maria's cooking channel inspired a movement of international chefs in New York to start language exchange dinner parties. Takashi's success led to his company implementing English immersion workshops based on our methods. Elena's art workshops became so popular that 3 other community centers requested similar programs. Our students became ambassadors of this new learning approach. They organized monthly Share Your Passion events where people from different cultures could teach others about their interests, all while practicing English. These gatherings turned into vibrant cultural exchanges, breaking down language barriers through shared enthusiasms. The most rewarding development was watching former students become mentors. Maria now trains other immigrant chefs in culinary English. Takashi leads business English workshops for Japanese professionals. Elena's art language program has expanded to include virtual classes for international students. What began as an experiment in one classroom evolved into a community-wide movement, proving that when language learning connects with real passions and purposes, it creates lasting impacts far beyond the original students. Each success story inspired more people to believe in their ability to master English while staying true to their interests and cultural identities. Looking back on that first morning in Manhattan, I could never have imagined how one classroom would transform so many lives, including my own. What started as a traditional English teaching position evolved into a journey of discovery that redefined what language learning could be. Today, as I watch Maria live stream her cooking classes to thousands of viewers worldwide, or see Takashi confidently leading international business seminars, or visit Elena's art language workshops filled with enthusiastic students, I'm reminded of a simple truth. Language learning isn't about perfect grammar or flawless pronunciation. It's about connecting with others and sharing what we love. Our approach has shown that when we remove the barriers between learning English and living life, remarkable things happen. Students don't just memorize vocabulary. They create, share, and grow. They find their voice in a new language while staying true to who they are. The future of our program looks brighter than ever. We're developing online platforms to reach remote learners, creating specialized courses for different industries, and building partnerships with cultural organizations worldwide. But more importantly, we're fostering a community where everyone's passion can become their path to English fluency. To anyone learning English, remember, your interests aren't distractions from learning. They're your greatest teachers. Whether you're a chef like Maria, a businessman like Takashi, or an artist like Elena, your passion can light the way to fluency. As I look toward the future, I see countless stories waiting to be told, skills waiting to be shared, and dreams waiting to be realized, all through the power of connecting language learning with life itself. The journey continues, one passionate learner at a time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for more stories in English and lessons. Click the bell icon to be notified when we post new videos. Your support means a lot to us. See you next time.